It's significantly bad. The majority of our antibiotics come from China, and we saw that. I'm glad you framed this in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we saw, number one, that the Chinese Communist Party was sequestering or hoarding PPE, personal protective equipment, and also antivirals, antibiotics, that they're one of the prime manufacturers of those medications that we need, ibuprofen, hydrocortisone. They make those as well, are generic medications. But it's even worse than that, is that if you can think back to the baby formula and the dog food, quality problems coming from China. But they also have the APIs and the KSMs. So that's the active pharmaceutical ingredients and the key starting materials. People know about China when it comes to fentanyl. The cartels would say, and Mexico would say, we're not sending over fentanyl, but they were getting the key ingredients from China and then making synthetic fentanyl in Mexico and then sending it to the United States. So people know about the synthetic fentanyl, but they don't realize for prescription medications how much of it is actually coming from China, and the fact that one of the lessons we should have learned from COVID-19 pandemic is that we have to diversify the supply chain.
How on earth did a country like China, with such an important industry as pharmaceuticals, how did they get such a lockdown on this?
Well, as we know, when we started lowering prescription drug prices in the United States, your prescription will say that a generic should be substituted as it should be. But that manufacturing, as our cost of labor became more expensive in the United States, manufacturing would shift overseas. We just, one of our primary generic manufacturers that was in West Virginia had closed. So there are things that we can do to bring that manufacturing back here, but it's very difficult to compete with a country that has labor costs that are a fraction of what they are here in the United States, and not having support for that industry. So I think there are things that we can do in Congress. We're looking at drug shortages and how we manage drug shortages, but also how we support manufacturing. And I'm just going to say passing the One Big Beautiful Bill was critically important to be able to onshore manufacturing or friendshore or nearshore. And that's because we're not going to compete on labor costs with China, but certainly having an attractive tax process, whether it's tax rates, whether it's immediate expensing, whether it's the corporate income tax, those things are critically important to us to be able to bring business, keep business in the United States and bring business back to the United States.
Yeah, and level the playing field just by creating a better tax advantage.
So I think you're going to see the Trump administration, again, the first thing was seeing the One Big Beautiful Bill, 2 is Made in America, and then 3 is what other supports can we have for supporting manufacturing of generic drugs in the United States. And there are things that we can do. There are companies that are coming up. There's one in Tennessee, and I've talked with Representative Diana Harshberger, who's a pharmacist. We've talked about this before, our compounding pharmacies, but how do we support manufacturing, especially of antibiotics here in the United States? And I think there are tax incentives that we can do that will help support these businesses so we still have access to low-cost generics, just not from China.